I'm here today with Tim Lucas, who proudly served in the Navy in Vietnam. And Tim, I'd just like to ask you a few questions, if it's okay, about that time.
That's fine.
Okay. Um, Let me ask you this: how did you come to serve in the Navy in Vietnam? Was it draft or volunteer? How did most of the men that you knew come to serve in that time frame?
Volunteer.
Volunteer, is that right?
Everybody was proud to go then.
Is that right? That's wonderful. That's wonderful, because you hear so many stories about
Right.
the draftees and men that really didn't want to go. So that's
in this
wonderful.
area, everybody was proud to go.
That's great. That's great. And what was your mission in Vietnam? What did you understand that to be? What ship were you on? What was exactly the mission of that?
I was stationed on the USS Valley Forge,
Okay.
LPH-8. It was a landing craft carrier.
Okay.
We hauled Marines, about 1,500 of them, from here overseas to Nam. And once we got to Nam, it was our duty to get them off the ship to land.
Certainly.
And so my job was running a landing craft boat. I run an LCU and LCM, and basically I just pulled up beside the ship, and they came down a cargo, what they call a cargo net,
Okay.
down the side of the ship. They just climbed down it, and we loaded them up, and had a crane on the ship that loaded their jeeps and whatnot that we hauled over, and we put it in the boat and took it to land for them. And when I got there, we dropped the bow, and they went out on the beach.
Wow. Let me ask you this about that. Was that a typical day? What was a typical day like for you, as far as
What we did when we were running there, it was like running a Liberty boat. We run 24 hours on, 24 hours off.
Mhm.
As a coxswain, boat coxswain. So that was our duty the whole day.
Okay.
Was to do that.
Okay. And what do you remember about the daily living conditions in Vietnam? What was it like on ship?
What are you doing?
It was pretty well. We left the boat, like we would tie up our landing craft boat and go to ship's mess and eat, which that was a lot better than most people had.
Right. My understanding was the food was pretty good in the Navy.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
That's right. Now, do you feel like your sense of mission or your sense of purpose was fulfilled? If so, why? And if not, why not?
I think it was.
Okay.
I went there to defend this country,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought we did that.
Absolutely.
And that was our mission.
And let me ask you this: what was the most difficult day that you remember about Vietnam?
Most difficult. That's a hard one.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing wounded people fly back in on helicopters,
Mhm.
bleeding and stuff like that. That was kind of tough.
I guarantee it. For such a young man.
Yeah.
And in your opinion, upon returning home, do you believe that the American public had the correct perception as to what was happening in Vietnam?
Absolutely not. Definitely not.
You care to touch on that? What do you think that the American public saw?
They didn't think we were supposed to be there.
Okay.
Most of the American people didn't at that time. And we got no appreciation for what we were doing.
Mhm.
Try to make them free in this country.
Right. Right. And touching upon that question, how were you treated upon, and how was other veterans actually treated upon returning home from Vietnam?
In this area, I was treated, it was just like coming home to, like I'd never left.
Okay.
But in a lot of areas, the bigger cities and things like that, that's where they had most of their problems.
And protests and things.
Protests
like
and things like that.
Okay. And how did Vietnam impact you afterwards, after serving in the Navy? What impact did it have upon you? Would you say?
I'm pretty tough. It didn't impact me that much.
And do you feel that the United States policymakers and the military top brass had an effective exit strategy? Do you feel like they had a plan to get our men, those who proudly served? Do you think they had a plan to actually bring them home effectively, or do you just feel that it was a game in Washington?
It was a game. It was one of those things that you think it was all political.
Mm-hmm.
It was more or less like a money game.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're at war, there's money flowing,
mm-hmm.
and things like that. And that's the way I felt about it. That it was more of a money game than anything else.
And that's certainly understandable. That was when I look at Vietnam and I research it, that's what I see as well.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this. As our Vietnam veterans continue to age, and I'll wrap it up with this question. As our Vietnam vets continue to age, what can the American public do to show our appreciation and basically do things to what's necessary to take care of our Vietnam vets? What can we do to ensure that you guys have everything you need going forward later in life?
Make sure they got their health care they need. They sprayed that Agent Orange all over that place, and all of us over there, it affected drinking water and everything. And all of us now, I've got so many symptoms from that stuff, like diabetes and all that kind of stuff. And it all relates to that, some kind of cancers and
mm-hmm.
all that stuff. They just need to make sure they got the health care that they need, and the place facilities to take them to.
Mr. Lucas, it's been an honor to do this interview with you, and I greatly thank you, and I appreciate your time, sir.
You're more than welcome.
Tim Lucas, proud to have done this interview with him, and proud Navy veteran that served in Vietnam.